Good morning. My name is John with the Pine Tree, and I have the great pleasure of being here this morning with leeint. Thank you
Hey,
very much
John.
for letting me stop by your home here. You have a beautiful spot here.
Well, thank you very much. We've got a
Uh-oh.
nice morning to start with.
This is a reminder to turn off my phone as we get started here, so this is a good thing. So how long have you been in Calaveras County? I know it's that just as how long have you been here?
Well, we bought the property that we're sitting on right now in the 90s, and we moved in 1999,
Wow.
and that was just before I retired from Hewlett Packard.
Okay.
So I commuted from here to Sacramento Airport for a little over a year.
Understood.
And that was when I was working as a consultant with the Department of Defense back in Washington, D.C. So I'd get up about 5 o'clock in the morning to catch the 8:30 flight out of
Wow.
Sacramento.
Wow.
Head to Dulles International
Yeah.
and usually have a dinner meeting that Monday night and then fly home that following Friday afternoon. So
That's some mileage.
That
That's
is.
some mileage. Now, do you think your HP years, now we'll get a little nerdy because I used to work for a software company. I have great respect for, because you were with HP, those are kind of not the golden years, but those are some good years for HP as far as as a real, not, those were some good times, weren't they?
Absolutely. I had the very great pleasure of meeting Hewlett and Packard,
Right,
who
right.
are still no longer actively managing the company, but they were around. I happened to, my first office at HP was actually in the same building in which they had their first offices, the old manufacturing division for any old timers. And so I really started at the core,
Right.
not quite in the
Right.
garage on Addison Street, but
Yeah.
very close to the beginning of the company. And over that 20-year period, I saw the transition through a number of CEOs.
Right.
When I left, Carly was still the CEO of the company,
Mm-hmm.
and it was very fortunate because in working at the same place for 20 years, some people these days go, "Oh boy, you must have been a dinosaur or something."
Right.
Well, actually, it was far from truth. As you say, that was the dot-com revolution was part
Sure.
of the reality of the Silicon Valley, and my experience there gave me a wide range of not only working in a very successful company
Right.
as a manager, but also in the last 7 years, I spent most of my career outside the company, consulting with other large global companies, sharing best practices from Hewlett Packard. So I had the opportunity to see companies that were being successful in transition.
Right.
And also, you usually call a consultant when something isn't going quite right.
Right.
So I got to see a lot of companies in trouble and did my best to assist them in making the necessary transitions. In my particular area of expertise was in supply chain management,
Okay.
what the military called logistics.
Right.
And so one of my last assignments was working with the Defense Logistics Agency and the Deputy Undersecretary of Defense for Logistics. And I felt that was a great opportunity for the private sector to share best practices with the public sector.
Right.
And of course, our military is a very important part of the
Yeah.
public sector.
Yeah.
So it was a great privilege for me, and it gave me an opportunity to see the modernization efforts in the military.
Now, do you think some of those lessons can be applied to city and county government? Do you think some of those things can be applied
Absolutely. I believe that the first and most important thing that good business management demonstrates is good management, period. Regardless of the organization, whether it's public, private, not-for-profit, for-profit, if it isn't well managed, it's not able to deliver its resources and effectively serve
Right.
its clientele
Right.
or the citizens.
Yeah.
And so when departments in the public sector are perceived as being inefficient or serving only a favored group,
Right.
the implication for the public at large is that government's forgotten about them, and that makes people unhappy about their own value in the democracy. And
Right.
when you know, in some communities you see a falling off of turnout as a result of that. Uh, that just weakens the whole political process.
Okay.
So I'm very glad that in the 6 years I've been on the Angels Camp City Council, I've had an opportunity to engage in a thorough budget process every
Right.
year.
Right.
We have been able to build appropriate reserves, and because we've been successful at obtaining grant monies, we've actually created the opportunity, kind of a fund to be used as an investment for new projects,
Right.
such as the branding study
Yeah.
and now what we're calling the Economic Development Summit.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Now I think the branding, I have is. I was impressed with that. I was impressed with, that some of the small changes that you could do in, consistency of signage, that things like that. And if you look at, kid, from what the consultant was saying, can have a real measurable effect on
Yes.
on revenue for the businesses within that given area. Or I mean, it was very very impressive. It was
Yeah.
very.
Well, I'm glad that I learned last night that Mr. Brooks is going to make a return appearance, somewhat briefly, but he has indicated to us that he's very interested in having Angels Camp be a success story.
Right. Right.
We have talked on the council as much as like last night's session about what are the initiatives and what are the priorities. We do have a historic sign committee made up of citizens and business owners.
Right.
That group's actually meeting this week also. We can take those small steps. They don't need to be these huge programs. In many
Right.
cases, it's not. It's just picking things, getting them done, and then being able to move on to the next step in the whole
Sure.
branding activity.
I mean, it sounds like window dressing, but in some ways it does have an effect, doesn't it? I mean,
Well, I could give you a real classic example, which is something that we have a sign coming into Angels Camp on the state highway saying rest stop,
right.
but it doesn't tell you where the rest stop is.
Right.
So one of the pieces of signage is a simple thing of saying, okay, the rest stop is located at the visitor center. We have good parking there. We have very nice restroom facilities, and it's an opportunity to get out of the car and stretch your legs and go in and look at some of the brochures and find out what are the activities that people can engage in.
Yeah.
Now, yesterday, just to show you how one small step can maybe lead you
Yeah.
to the next step, is we're talking yesterday about with the growth of hybrid cars, plug-in vehicles, I guess. We said, well, wouldn't it be interesting if you could come to the visitor center, park in the parking lot, plug your hybrid in,
Right.
recharge your car. During the time it takes to recharge your car, by stretching your legs, maybe you go and have a meal at one of our restaurants.
Sure.
Maybe you go
Sure.
and shop at
Sure.
Stories in Stone or at the bookstore. Or in other words, there are activities that make it's a win-win. You get your car kind of perked up a little bit, and one of the things we can feature in those connections is that we could be drawing that power from hydroelectricity. We have several generating facilities here in the county, and that means that not only is the vehicle green, but the energy that you're putting into that vehicle is green.
Now
That makes us more attractive.
It does. Now, are you going to make like the old parking meters where you put your quarter in to do the recharge? Or?
We don't have we haven't fine-tuned the plan yet. It may be like a parking meter, or it may be that this is something that because it is a renewable resource,
Right.
that we can integrate it in with our total economic development package.
Right.
And but it's just one way of competing for people's time and their dollars, and and again it's a win-win because cars that don't pollute coming to visit us helps us keep our clean air, which we all value.
Right.
It helps bring in a business that has a minimal impact on our own. If we get tourists out of their cars and walking around the historic district, or going up to Murphy's and walking around the shops downtown, are visiting Vallecito. We're going out to the zip lines.
Right. Right.
What we're doing is we're getting them out of their car. They're not
Yeah.
just driving around. They're coming, they're parking, they're getting out, they're taking opportunity to really discover Calaveras.
Right.
I think those are things that are win-wins.
Okay. Now, within your district is some of the core um, retail and fiscal. It's one of the, it's not really the breadbasket of the county, but it's a significant, impact as far as with Murphy's and with Angels,
Yep.
Everything. Now, what do you see for the next 10 years or so as the economic model that the county should adopt? I mean, I know there's a lot of talk in economic development, and
Right.
some people think it should be enabled economic vitality instead because, and like, what do you see? I mean, what would you like to see the types of businesses? I mean, how do you see the next 10 years if it was up to you?
Well, I think that the ideal objective is to create a balanced economy,
Okay.
an economy that features a wide range of housing options for people, uh, an economy that features job creation, service sector, as well as appropriate higher value add businesses.
Okay.
I've talked a lot about uh, focusing on renewable energy. In addition to hydroelectric, we have tremendous solar
Right.
resources here.
Right.
We're above the fog line usually, and that gives us a more consistent and sustained solar ability.
Right.
And I'm really gratified to see that in our district we have Oars, a recreation company that is invested in solar energy, and right next door to them
Yeah,
is the
it's just
RV
right
park.
down the. Yeah, very cool.
People may be driving their pusher RV up here at 8 miles a gallon,
Right.
but once they get here, they can be in an ecologically friendly
Sure.
campground and enjoy the bounty not only of just great things to do, but also using a renewable energy
Right.
resource like the solar. I think we also have a real challenge in managing our forest, and one of the programs that I would like to see brought throughout the county is something like the CHIPS project
Right.
up in the West Point area, where what we're doing is we're thinning the forest, we're protecting particularly the homes of the elderly, giving them defensible space around their dwellings, then harvesting the slash and taking that and turning it into mulch product,
Right.
which is used in agriculture and gardens. But we can, I think, add to that. We can also start doing pelletization of that wood
Sure.
slash.
Sure.
And wood pellets are a more a cleaner burning fuel. It's also obviously a renewable fuel.
Right.
And if we can start moving into the healthy forest and thinning, we're not only, the irony is that it's been pointed out that mature trees have an impact on issues like global warming,
Right.
but growing trees are much better at capturing the carbon
Yeah.
out of the air
Yeah.
and giving us fresh air, oxygen back. So actually, by stimulating forest growth
Yeah.
through thinning
Yeah.
and proper
Yeah.
management, we're actually reducing the impact of the greenhouse gases. So again, the idea is that we can get a win-win situation where we reduce the fire risk, so we don't have our forest, the Stanislaus, turn into the San Bernardino firestorm.
We've been real lucky.
Yes, and we came through Angels Camp back when the old Gulch fire
Yeah.
was actually burning,
Yeah.
and I'll never forget that sight of that, incredible column
Yep.
of flame and smoke
Yeah.
rising into the sky. It actually reminded me of growing up in Kansas when I saw my first tornado.
Right.
They
Right.
have an eerie
Right.
similarity about
Yeah.
them.
And I guess that it's good points because I guess as people realize, I mean, how we manage our forests need to change. No, we don't want to go back to the old logging practices of old, but leaving all. I mean, there needs to be some thinning. I mean, you have to get that out of there, otherwise, it's a a real.
And I think that's the challenge, and that's where I think new leadership can focus on building consensus and establishing the balance. We're not asking people to give up their economic rights. We're asking people to actually activate those rights
Okay.
by getting into an environment in which it's a win-win situation. One of the things I learned very early on at Hewlett Packard is that our motto is that we added value to our clients, and we harvested our profit from their increase in profit.
Got it.
If they're not successful, we're not going to be a long-term partner for them.
Right.
So
Right.
it's again the idea of focusing on the win-win, and that's that model is not just wishing for things to happen.
Sure.
It's actually doing the detail work. It means going through the budget process and making sure that each of your important activities in government is properly funded, has a long-term vision of what its role and responsibilities are, that staff is trained to do the jobs that
Right.
they're being asked to
Right.
do, that the management team is exercising a full range of responsibilities, including oversight of the public's trust, the
Right.
property that
Right.
the public owns. And
Mhm.
those are issues that need steady attention.
Okay.
I think it's important that the Board of Supervisors functions kind of like a Board of Directors.
Right.
You hope you have the right management team in place, but hoping isn't enough. You have to periodically test to make sure
Mhm.
that your management team is executing the programs you put in place. Once you know that that's solid, then the Board of Directors turns to longer term. They
Right.
become the more
Right.
strategic
Mhm.
component, and,
Mhm.
and that's a good balance. But if you don't know where you're going, the old adage is anything you do will get you there.
Right.
But if you have a clear plan and you don't have a disciplined organization, you'll never get to your strategic values because you'll constantly be
Right.
falling down on
Right.
the day-to-day. So keeping those two things in balance is part of the responsibility, in my view, of the Board of Supervisors.
Now, one little last piece on economic development and stuff. Now, in fact, these numbers came out of the last couple weeks when they had that economic development study. Is we have a large percentage of our county employment base that is public sector or quasi-public sector. You end up with and we see it when we go through a real estate slump where we have a drop in the net importation of money. If outsiders aren't bringing money into
Right.
the county, we suffer. I mean, what can we do to bring more of a jobs base, that is more of not the cyclical, the cyclical revenue streams that we see. What do you see as far as industry and growth in, like private sector jobs? Where would you see those? I mean,
Yeah, well, government is apparently the largest employer in the county, and I certainly don't recommend growing government as a way of creating jobs. The city of Angels, we have less than 40 full-time equivalents,
Right.
We're not looking to. The only real growth we've had in the city is in fire and
Sure.
police services,
Sure.
and that's because as the community has prospered, you might say, we have. The need for both fire and police services grows.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to say that we've been able to fund those out of the growth and out of the transit occupancy tax increase.
Right.
So again, paying as you go
Yeah.
is an important part of sound government. But government can be an enabler
Right.
for economic development,
Right.
but it is seldom the right creator of it.
Oh, understood. Yeah. No, understood.
I think there are some specific areas. I had at a Bible study, a men's Bible study this morning up in Murphy's. I had a chance to talk with someone who had just completed a course offered by PG&E on alternative energy construction.
Okay.
specifically solar panels.
Yeah.
Uh, and here's a builder. Maybe things are a little slow right now.
Mm-hmm.
He's taking the time to go and get some education, get trained up on new technology that then he can help uh, homeowners or businessmen understand the economics
Right.
of going to, let's say, solar and
Mm-hmm.
photovoltaic,
Mm-hmm.
and understand the tax benefits and the
Right.
overall plan for
Right.
how it would work in their business. To me, that's the way economic development occurs. Is it takes a combination of people initiative.
Mm-hmm.
It takes in these days you have to have technology in just
Right.
about any
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
discipline, and you need to get willing buyers to understand how you're going to add value to them and work together to create that new RV park that's
Right.
more energy efficient,
Right.
uh, becomes more attractive. Maybe they need to expand their operation. They will. That's how jobs get created.
Right.
There's a lot of studies that show that most job creation occurs in companies that are between 100 and 5,000 employees. Uh, that number, and you think about that typically means that you've got to be a company probably with at least $1 million in revenue
Right.
to be a job creator.
Right.
Okay, so when we think about economic development, uh, we need to be thinking about industries and businesses that are in that general ballpark, I think.
Right.
Uh, those are industries also that typically don't have a lot of negatives. They're
Yeah.
not the
Yeah.
smokestack
Right.
industries or
Right.
the heavy impact kind of industries. In Calaveras, I think if we look around, we already see we have uh, hydroelectric opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
we have solar opportunities, we have forest product opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
But we should never forget that most of our open space is a working landscape of
Yeah.
farmers,
Right.
ranchers, and
Right.
vineyards. So we need to balance the
Right.
approach. We need to make sure that we've got a stimulus approach in each of those areas. I'll use a project that I've been involved in just kind of as a helping hand,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the Calaveras Beef Stick Project. This is an opportunity to help our farmers and ranchers increase the value that they get from their cattle product
Okay.
uh, by branding a beef stick as Calaveras grown. It emphasizes the grass-fed
Right.
quality,
Right.
the open range.
Right.
These are things that then help make Calaveras famous for
Right.
something besides
Not really
frogs.
not really agritourism, but agri branding,
It's
so to
agri.
speak. Huh?
It's
Yeah.
it's really business that focuses on increasing the ability of ranchers and other producers
Mm-hmm.
to retain the lifestyle that we all benefit from,
Right.
even if we never
Right.
set foot on a ranch.
Yeah. I guess in closing, if people are unfamiliar with, I mean, I know inside Angels Camp, people are very familiar with from your time on the city council, but let's say in Murphy's and the surrounding,
Yeah.
and I guess even though they wouldn't be directly voting for you, but other people in the county, they would have what's a vote for Lee Seaton, and what is
Well, I think the first thing is the reason that I applied to the city council for
mm-hmm.
to fill a vacancy was I'd had an incredibly successful career at Hewlett Packard in
Mm-hmm.
electronics before that,
Mm-hmm.
and I had started out as a college teacher, so I'd had a couple of careers already,
Sure.
and I felt that this was an opportunity for me to start giving back to the community. The members of the city council voted me in, and I ran for re-election. So I would certainly invite people that want to get to know me more to look at my record. They can get that at our website, citizensforseaton.com,
Mm-hmm.
and that's they can look at my position on issues. I try to share on topics that I think that we're all concerned about. I've been putting position papers up on the website.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I'm not content just to run as a person from Angels Camp.
Right.
I started walking up in 6 Mile Village, and I've gone up, basically up Highway 4 in the district, introducing myself door to door, and I'm consistently hearing people tell me about what they're concerned about.
Right.
They're not really into the big ideological battles, and frankly, none of the candidates were born in Calaveras County. They want to know the how much we care, and
Right.
what do we care about.
Right.
And what I'm hearing is people are looking for a government that's more transparent, more open, where processes are easily understood, where you can determine where your building permit is in the queue,
Mm-hmm.
that the Public Works is getting the culverts cleaned out before
Right.
the rainy season.
Right.
I mean, these are really the day-to-day issues, and one of the things that I think my experience 6 years on the city council has given me is that um, uh, many of those responsibilities, we have them here in the city also.
Right.
I,
Right.
I expect people to give me a call when their street light goes out. I mean, that's part of being in a democracy. You're a representative of your people, and you should attend to their concerns. So,
Right.
those are the bottom lines for me. Uh, uh, It's the same reason why I taught American government at Columbia College at night school. I had gone to night school back long ago, in the 60s. I'm not ashamed to admit it. Night school at a community college was an important part of me getting on track and working my way back into college.
Mm-hmm.
And pursuing my academic career. I was in a position where I could start giving back and lending my experience and qualifications to teaching this current generation of the basics
Right.
about American government.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things I care about. That's where my passion is. I believe that we live in one of the most God-blessed places in the world,
Mm-hmm.
and it's this generation's responsibility to enhance it, to preserve it. That's why I've been an advocate of our revitalizing our museum in town.
Right.
And we're coming up on Italian Heritage Days. Which
Second
will be,
annual, huh?
Yes,
Yeah, there we go.
These are the fun things
Yeah.
that go along with being in a really healthy and vibrant community.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank
John.
you for your time, and
Appreciate
thank you for
it.
letting us stop by, and good luck in the race.
Thank you very much.
All right.